Okay, first look at where is this pictures. The Highland cattle. Okay, got a Gaelic ball. Something. Highland. Wow, nice. Pretty cool. Okay, the only time I open Edge, Microsoft Edge. You made that right now. Alright, so we gotta wipe out stuff. Create a new post. Writing session. Okay.
Depend keeps you drier than ever, so you can say yes to more than ever.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No.
What happened with the music? Fine. We down here. Okay. Okay. So actually am not very well versed in relational database. In my very first job out of college, I had to write some since the ORM layer underneath is not seen here. I have to be honest. The simple query ORM deleted. Hello, I'm doing fine. How are you? Weidhoven. A problem with audio? Oh no, I think you're a bot. Let's show what did this guy talking about. Right, look at this. Look at this. What audio? What are you talking about? Very common. PM. My question is the Chama, and data science. Whatever. No, right? Chamath is popularized the term. So did Chamath make it on the term data scientist? What do we say here? Okay. How do I link to this? Where's the link? Go YouTube and find that. The Chamath invent data science. You just type in Chamath data science. Okay. See if we can show this.
I invented this thing called data scientist because we had a PhD from Google that refused to join because he got a job offer that says data analyst.
Yeah.
And so we said, call him a scientist because he was a PhD in particle physics. So he really, he was a scientist. And I said, great, you're a scientist here.
And that launched a discipline.
I invented this thing called data scientist because we had a PhD
Okay.
from Google that refused to join because he got a job offer that says data.
Isn't Chamath really data science, data-driven guy? Let's look at this. Let's actually look at what he's saying here.
Well, the time has come. There's 1,000 robots outside who are about to replace us. You've probably heard that over and over and over again and have wondered to yourself, what does that actually mean? And when people say these things, when they talk about replacing human capital with functional technical capital, they talk about artificial intelligence. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, as I always do, I want to start with our mission, which is to advance humanity by solving the world's hardest problems. There are a group of people in Silicon Valley right now that believe the most important things to spend our time on is the advancement of human capital, the eradication of disease, solutions to global climate change, and other really difficult things that are non-obvious. And the reason we come to that conclusion is because we as an organization are comprised by and amongst people who have otherwise helped build some of the most indelible and well-known technology companies that we all use every day. And it's through that lens that we started presenting at IRIS-OWN in 2016. And we started with a really non-obvious presentation of an idea around being long Amazon. And as it turned out, it's been compounding every year by about 54%. A few months later, we were asked to speak at IRIS-OWN on the West Coast. And we picked another really interesting company with a non-obvious thesis, Workday. And that has been compounding by about 26% a year. And last year, I was here on this stage and I had the opportunity to talk about our modern Edison, a gentleman named Elon Musk running a business named Tesla, who we thought could be creating a really incredible transformation
How
in
did you
energy
invest
and a real
into
impact in ending climate change.
Tesla before
Now-
its IPO?
That has been off to not as blistering of a start, but we still believe. The point is that our Irisome basket has compounded on average by about 36% a year, and it's with that lens that we now start to talk about something that we think creates a really interesting disruptive company that is really worth considering for 2018. But before I do that, I want to unpack the thing that we all probably are asking ourselves. When you hear the buzzword artificial intelligence, what is it? What is it that all these people are talking about? Let's start with some very, very basics. When people talk about AI, they're talking about two and only two very unique but overlapping concepts. The first is the idea of learning. So how do we use computers to replicate how the human mind learns? And the second is inferring and inference, or how do we observe things in real life once we've been trained and then make a prediction that's accurate?
Okay.
And how do we use computers to do the same thing? And what we've done in computer science is unpack these two problems and then allocate computers and allocate resources and really smart people to try to solve them in interesting ways. So how does learning work? Learning, much like the human mind, works in a very simple idea, which is you take enormous amounts of data, you train your mind, or in this case, you train a computer using an algorithm, and out of that comes a model that describes everything you've seen in the past. And why that's useful is then you can use that model in real time, so that when you encounter the next dog or cat, once you've been trained to know what a dog looks like, you can identify that image with extreme high precision. So inference is you take all of those observations in real time and you apply this model and you make predictions. So why is artificial intelligence so interesting? Why do people think it's transformational? And it's this one very simple idea, which is that it creates a positive feedback loop in how we as humans can make better and better decisions. And the way that works is that once you use data and you train computers to think about what it is, and they understand what it is, then they can predict the new thing, and then you send that result back into the system, and all of a sudden your knowledge starts to compound. Your accuracy compounds. Your ability to predict things intelligently compound. And then as you can imagine, it also allows you to do those things, these very difficult things, cheaper, faster, and better. This is at the crux of why everybody is focused on this problem. So for example, if you took trillions of search queries of what every human in the world was searching for, and you trained a model, and you created a product around it, it would be called Google. And we've all had this experience when we type in 1 or 2 letters into Google, and it completes a search term, and you think to yourself, how did they know?
How would
Well, they
know?
knew because a computer helped them guess. And that guess was not a guess, it was a very accurate prediction. And these predictions are going to get more and more accurate over time. Imagine if you took trillions and trillions of photos, and you identified each one as a dog, as a cat, as a human, a beach, a mountain, a lake. What would you be able to do? Well, if you used iPhoto, or if you used Google Photos or Facebook, you could identify faces. You could do interesting things like search
think
for all
you
the
can do
times you've been
cat
to a
and
beach
dog
where the
faces.
computers understand what beaches are. How does that happen? Again, it's artificial intelligence. These are models that have been trained over long periods of time. And then finally, think about how you could do interesting things if you took a car and you put sensors all around it. Sensors that told you what was in front of you, what was behind you, your tire pressure, where you were, how fast you were going, the weather, etc., etc. You could probably create a really intelligent autopiloting system. And we see that now in the wild with companies like Tesla and Google. The point is that everybody in Silicon Valley has now come to a really important decision point. The last 20 years of value creation in Silicon Valley have been bound by this idea that there are these waves. And in the late 90s and early 2000s, we went through this first transformation, where in order to raise capital, and frankly, when you think about where value creation existed, it was this idea that you no longer were a computer company, but you were an internet company. And then in 2008, when Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone, something really interesting happened, which was the next wave started, which was this idea that now it didn't matter whether you were an internet company like Google or Facebook. It mattered whether you were a mobile company like Uber and Snapchat. But now what I would tell you is that this third wave is upon us.
AI
And in
company.
this third wave, it's really critical to understand what AI is, what it can do, what it can't do, and who is actually positioned to create incredible amounts of value over the next 10 to 20 years. And so it's when we internalize the importance of this idea that we did what we always do, which is take a step back and create a logical framework to understand how value gets created. And in this case, we created a really simple level of building blocks that we called the AI stack. And it's using this model, you can organize who does what and where we think real value is going to get created in the past, today, and more importantly for our pick coming up, in the future. So there are these four really important areas, so let's just talk about them really quickly. The first is this idea of compute. The reality is that artificial intelligence, at the end of the day, is a lot of math, specifically in linear algebra. And as it turns out, when you unpack it, companies like Intel, making things like CPUs, are terrible at the kind of math that AI needs.
I mean,
It
GPU.
turned out that another product that already existed at the time, called a GPU, a graphic processing unit, was great at linear algebra, largely made
Matrix
by a company many of
multiplication.
you have heard of called NVIDIA. And it turned out that GPUs were 10 times to 100 times more performant than a CPU. And it probably explains why NVIDIA has run as much as it has. But that's not the ending point. In fact, what companies like Google found out was that you could actually make a custom chip by yourself that was even better than a GPU.
Is that the
They
ASIC
created
thing?
something called
Yes,
the
I
TPU,
see.
which is 2 to 10 times better. But at the end of the day, the compute layer has been dominated by two vendors, NVIDIA and Google. A lot of the value has been created, but we think it's an interesting building block for where we're going. So on top of all of this compute, we have infrastructure. What does that mean? Well, artificial intelligence requires a different kind of compute infrastructure. It's not just about storage, it's not just about CPUs, but what it is about GPUs. It's about the ability to pipeline enormous amounts of data very quickly. And it's not the ability to do it on premise, it must exist in the cloud because of the complexity of what's happening. So the simple question around infrastructure is, where will that value be captured? Well, it'll be in the places where there are three companies who do this.
Wow.
Storage, compute, and GPUs, which are really companies like Amazon, Google. Then you look at algorithms, which is how do you actually make these decisions? How do you train the human mind? How do you model the human mind? And when you look under the hood, there's again two companies that dominate here. If you go into GitHub, you see something called TensorFlow. Lo and behold, one company created it. Then there's another thing called CUDA. Lo and behold, another company we've already heard of has created that. The point is that all of these building blocks are now well established. A lot of the value has been created. So now what next? And what next is around applications. And this is where we get to our 2018 pick for Irisome. It's in this application layer where over the next 10 or 20 years, you're going to see most enterprise software get remade. And in that will be the reallocation of hundreds and potentially even trillions of dollars of IT spend over that entire time. So how do
also more
enterprises take
layoffs.
advantage of AI? Well, the first thing they need to do, as we learned in the past, was organize their information. Take it and stick it into some training algorithms to create a model. But the problem is that all of this data is in a very unstructured way. It doesn't exist in a neatly organized model. There aren't labels, there aren't things that classified all of this stuff. These are Excel spreadsheets, these are Word documents, these are PowerPoint decks. And so you need an organizing layer who can take all of that chaos and create some sanity out of it. And there is. And so we get to our 2018 pick for Irisome, which
all
is
that
Box.
add?
So why Box? For a bunch of reasons. The first and foremost is that they sit on top of an enormous amount of R&D that these huge internet giants are already doing. In fact, when you look under the hood of how much money is being spent, last year alone, almost $45 billion. And these guys benefit from this
It's
enormous
100
tailwind.
billion now for Meta.
And they do three very simple basic applications
like
with
that.
all of this infrastructure that has been built for them. They give companies the ability to add intelligence to imagery, to audio, and to video. And so what does that mean to do that? Well, imagine now you go into a hospital and millions of x-rays have already been pre-classified. They know what the difference between a malignant and a non-malignant tumor are. They know what's a nodule versus a tumor. They can tell you very discreetly what's a blockage and what's not. Those are machines trained to make these decisions with the participation of great doctors. Imagine now you call and get an insurance policy. And instead of weeks, what happens is you actually apply over the phone. All of that is automatically created, an application that's translated into a computer. A decision is made and your policy is created. So you take audio and all of a sudden it exists in contextualized, structured data. Or imagine the ability to actually take any running video, identify people, identify themes, things that have been said, anomalies, and you see how there's just a wide number of ways in which we believe Box can generate an enormous amount of value over the next few years. So as always, let's look at our work. There's really three ways in which great companies, in my perspective, get built. The first is you find a core product that works, then you use that trust to build the ability to expand to adjacent verticals, and then you drive features that drive your average revenue. And Box is doing all three very quietly, unbeknownst to most people. This is a company with 82,000 enterprise customers, with almost 70% of the Fortune 500. Companies that we all know of, trust and respect, use Box every day. And they use them for a very obvious set of features that has created trust, repeatable purchase behavior, very low churn, and high value. In fact, there are now more than 10 million users using this product, paying in the enterprise, which when you compare them to other companies, sets the stage for what could be an enormous business being built almost quietly under our noses.
And
It is also a
Workday
business that has
recently
almost
released an AI
$550 million of recurring revenue and has been
for
steadily,
automatically filtering the
consistently growing this revenue for
application
years and years and
for
years.
its job.
And it is also a business at this point that is now meaningfully free cash flow positive and generating real amounts of cash that they can re-inject into the business. So the core business is unbelievably stable, highly predictable, and frankly, what we're going to see in a little bit, very cheap. And on top of this, what they've been able to do is build a whole suite of value-added services. In fact, over the last 3 years, they've started to really understand how to upsell and cross-sell. And last quarter, what they told us was over 2/3 of their deals over 100K actually involved these value-added upsells. And then now we get to the AI layer, which is the stage has been set for a great product with a great customer base who are now ready to adopt all the AI capabilities that these enormous companies have now created and made available through the interface layer of organizations like Box. And what's great about this is it builds off of momentum in their core business. The amount of volume of data that's inside this business that they can organize is just exploding. This is a new business stream that, when they land customers, comes in at more than 90% gross margin. But it's a business that is incredibly cheap and undervalued. In fact, when you look at the market cap of this business relative to others, what you see is a really cheap company with incredibly low churn and an unbelievable margin of safety.
Really?
And so when you layer this AI-led digital transformation, what we think is going to happen is very similar to the last decade. We're going to see, on average, 20 to 25% compounding in their revenue. We're going to see an expansion of all of these verticals. We're going to see an expansion of ARPU driving value-added services. And we think we're going to see even a modest multiple expansion over the next 5 to 10 years. And when that happens, what you see is a business that can be extremely valuable. So to recap, our pick for 2018 is Box. If you believe and if you care about artificial intelligence and its role in the world and your ability as a public market investor, what I would tell you is be long Amazon, be long Google, but frankly, be long Box. Thanks, everybody.
So he's saying you should invest into Box in 2018. Okay, it seemed like the annual revenue keep increasing. Okay. Oh, sorry. Music now. Let me see. Do diligent for box. What is the stock now? Going down. Doesn't seem like we bought it here. You double in what? 8 years. See this? Due diligence for Box Inc. We'll see. With 8% year over year, okay. Do they have any cash flow? 61 million free cash
we
flow.
are endowed by our Creator
Oh
with
my
certain
God,
unalienable
ads.
rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
They have Box AI. Do we trust in the AI? Or do we trust that the other cloud gonna beatbox? Hey, beatbox. Okay. Okay, so go back to our post. Likely not. Looks like they made up the term to hire the people they want, and it just sticks. All right. Okay, so back to the problem. Okay, let's add this at the end. But none of that involving delete statement, because for obvious reason. If one messed up, then production database is a goner. Couple protection layers already in place. Right, they have, I think you can roll back, copy backup, copy from daily backup. So it is a little bit interesting. To add it to that, the question does not execute code. And what did they do? Let's talk about the syntax of delete statement is a bit odd.
Guys, this thing's so delicious. I could start a business selling them. Oh, LegalZoom. I can register an LLC and even
In
update my
that-
will so I can pass along my recipes when I bite the biscuit.
This
When you
might
need a
be
legal
here.
hand, turn to LegalZoom.
Maybe it's 11:47 p.m. Your store tab is still open.
Okay.
You're the founder, designer, marketer, even support all at once. A dozen tools, 100 tabs, still building alone. I'm Genius, your AI co-founding team lead. Your idea, my AI team, a working business. Now let's meet the
Does
team.
not let you provide.
I am Malik. Tell me your
Or-
idea in one simple prompt, and I spin up your store. Pages, policies, shipping, payments, and key settings get you from idea to your store's live in minutes, not months.
I am Dean. Give me your brand story, mood, and
What is
colors.
this X?
I design a clean, modern storefront that feels exactly yours. Needful.
Right, so when you do these to get the minimum number, right? So these give you the minimum ID, and you need to secondly you have to filter this, right? Then it does not let you. What does Gemini tell me earlier? Okay. What's the question that I have asked earlier on? Hold on, let me check my screenshot that I download. Okay. Where is my... Let me refresh this. Gemini.com. Was that in this? Not this. Oh, right here. Yeah. So I had this double subquery problem. wrap your subquery in another subquery. Give it an alias. Right, so you have to do this double query here. Right, why? The reason why is okay. Copy this. Maybe it is, I don't know. Okay. Copy this. Right. So first we gotta get the minimum ID and email. Email to so first thing we got to do first, we got to produce a row set that is the ID with email greater than the minimum ID of the same, greater than the minimum ID of the same email. So, which is this statement right here. Right. The question asks for duplicate email with the minimum ID. Then we just delete where ID is from this set, except it does not work because of the following reason that Gemini told me. Right, so if we could just do this, that'd be nice, right? Yeah. To fix that, we have to wrap. We have to do double select. Don't ask me why. That's the issue with the first one. Took a while to get to. Okay. Okay, so unique path with this one. first paste the code that we did first. Okay. We can start by doing that first search. Since there is the robot, since the robot can only go right and bottom, right and down. There is no cycle. There's no need for cycle, so no need to detect that and avoid infinite loop. That's the first thing. Okay. As we explore the path, if we landed on a position that we had traversed before, we update all the previous position, previous path. Count. We increment. Then finally we return the
A little organic
path
almond.
count at
Delightfully simple, like a piece
the
of
0,
modern
0,
art.
right?
So simple, yet so profound.
Yep.
Oh, that's good.
Califia organic almond milk with just almonds, water,
This
and
is
salt.
pretty much the intuition for that. Semi-ads. Okay. Couple pitfall. One is what did I wrong here? The array is flip y, aka the y-axis is positive down instead of up. So when looking up when accessing the grid position x, y, would pose like an index out of bound. to fix this, I actually mapping like the y b like mapping like actually use y-axis instead of xy, right? And another pitfall is HK if the robot started at the same position as the obstacle, to say fail. Another key is it's if the robot started at the destination, then counts. And not count. Yeah, pretty much that. This is code. Okay. We landed on the obstacle, but does not count. And complexity is probably have to do O U plus V, right? U is the position. No, yeah, the position, yeah. V is the edges, right? So therefore search, right? Complexity is, yeah, V plus E, yeah, V plus E. Vertex and E is number of edges, yes. Okay. Actually, let's see what they say here. What is my code? My submission, yeah. Oh, I have some runtime error. Okay, what is complexity here? 2 n plus n, that's fine. Okay, fine. Read article and react. What do we do? And here there's 2 issues. Notepad plus plus supply chain attack. And semantic compression. This is being too. This one. the delivery network for update has been compromised. It's auto download and triggers some executable. I do not use Notepad++, but I am also lazy in editing software, so maybe ignorance is bliss. Some people also complain that there is no mentioning of what to do if you are infected. Just upgrade related. Okay. This sort of remind me of when Jonathan Blow I remember Jonathan Blow was talking about open source problem is one of the serious open source software problem is that millions of people over the world can inject their what do you call it? Harmful code into open source. If not, if pull request not review thoroughly, could be state sponsor hackers. This is during the XZ Yuto backdoor attack. At least actual company has
up to 1 in 4 men experience bladder leaks. So just like there's a club for every type of shot, there's a Depend product for every type of bladder leak. Like Depend guards for light leaks. Keep it dry, guys.
You can get anything you want on the internet. So why are we still taking gen eds like this?
Security
At Sophia Learning, we have a solution. Sophia offers online college-level courses that are designed to transfer for credit, helping thousands of people graduate.
Right.
Use
So
Sophia
what is
and get ahead.
Jonathan below? What is that? Let's go to YouTube. Let's go to history. Oh, need to watch this. Need to watch later. I go to history. Where history? This one. For the YouTube. The difference Gemini to me. Can I crop? Oh nice, you can crop. Good. Okay, so now we do semantic compression. Title is unique path of deleting duplicate email. When delivery network is compromised. This is the why refactoring code, object-oriented code. Some SQL, some problem. Beauty. Okay. Modeling real world as object is to complicate things and so the Reddit discussion here. Complicated thing and complicated thing. Finds out the usage of a common code before actually abstracting compressing to a function. Right. So basically he's saying knowing even C++ actually complicate things. So knowing when to abstracting, aka moving code to common function, is knowing when to is very important. We ended up with low. Yep.
Oh, I gotta come clean. I don't get football.
What?
Why do they score by 7?
6.
Okay.
And the kicker is so little. I worry
So
about
basically
it.
that
like
is
my
the
nachos?
end
I love your nachos, man.
Cottonelle leaves
of
you
the
so
stuff
clean.
that
you'll
we'll
wanna
have to
come
go
clean
eat
about
now,
everything else.
then play some games,
GM Genuine Parts and AC
then
Delco are the
do
true
a little
original
bit of
equipment for all General
study
Motors
about some
vehicles.
stuff, and
Plus,
then
AC
we
Delco
look at
Gold and Silver
a
parts
couple
are the
more
only aftermarket
design,
parts backed by GM.
the
Those in the
system
know,
design
stay
question.
on the go.
Let's do this. Okay, so let's schedule this. Lead code, AI, Gemini, deleting unique email, unique. Okay, this is read and react. What is it? Supply chain attack, security, semantic compression, OOP. Oops. Okay, schedule time. Due today at 6 p.m. I don't have paid subscriber yet, so fine. Oh, by the way, the Substack is this one. This one. All right, let's send it. 6 hours. All right. Think that's it for now. Gonna have to go eat now. Come back to some games and more. See you guys later.